related to tourism. 65% of directly and indirectly affecting the population of Goa is getting affected by tourism. So if you are not talking about that, who else can talk about that? So that was the context why we started this. And it's a long conversation, but when we started 3 years back during pandemic, it was already 30 months to the COVID, which means almost all lifestyle kind of entrepreneurs shut down their startups by that time, and only the serious ones stayed back. And this means when we decided to run an accelerator program along with Goa Tourism, we got applications from 6-7 countries, some 55-60 applications. And the only thing they told was like, we don't need funding, we need business. So that's where, like, thanks to Jack, at that time, like peak of COVID time, we did a business partner meet, and Jack hosted us at his property, where 12 to 15 startups came down across the country. And thanks to Sean, and by that time, like, Sean was not an OSD, or Jack was not a TTAG incoming president. So thanks for being supportive from day one. And now Mark is sitting in the back, who is like more like a friend now, who guides me. And last 3 years, like, this journey is with the few believers. And I'm not, Prashant is the day one, that's a default. That's why I'm sitting here in the first place. What I'm trying to tell is, like, if we don't convince the stakeholders in the ecosystem, we cannot build this whole thing. I can get innovations, or we can do all those things, but unless the stakeholders are convinced, government, hospitality, travel, even the local community, if they are not convinced, we cannot build this. At this point, I feel, we having a chance to express this after 3 years. This means we hit that point. Okay, we have some glimpses. It can actually work in Goa. So that is what tourism tech. So that is something we are building out of Goa for the world. So nobody is using the word tourism tech in the country. So that means we are actually creating a vertical out of this place. So one request is, like, anyone thinking of starting something new with innovations, or you are, if you are part of hospitality and travel, there's a small incubator in South Goa called FIRE, with a double I, FIIRE. And we have 70 to 80 startups related to tourism tech, which are working right now. Would like to connect and discuss how they can, do business with the stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tejas, for that detailed explanation. It's great news that we have these incubators in Goa, and I would request all young entrepreneurs to give it a shot there, try them out, as well as I would also request my fellow industry colleagues to help with this pilot projects in whatever way. I've worked with Percept or Persistence a little bit in trying their QR codes. My next question goes to Matt. Matt, who all come under digital nomads, and what's the present scenario with digital nomads?
Sure. Oh, great. You can hear me. Yeah, I would broadly define a digital nomad as anybody who is working and traveling at the same time. But within that concept, there's a broad range of people. There are people like me who don't actually have a home and have been drifting for a long time. There are some people who may just have a home base and do it 3 months out of the year. There are fast travelers. The fastest traveler I met was somebody who moved around once a week, which I don't think is sustainable on any level. I'm a slow traveler. I tend to stay as long as a visa will allow. So that's usually 3 to 6 months. And that gives me time to really dive into the local culture, get some ties, really connect with people. And then I'll often return to places that I've been before, because I make friends there and I really connect with the community. And in certain cases, I spend a lot of time in Latin America, so I've learned Spanish. As far as the current state of digital nomadism, I talked to Dhruv, who is the owner of Alchemea, the co-living, co-working space that I'm staying at. And he told me that the current estimate is that there are around 35 million digital nomads in the world, with about 10% of them active at any given moment, so about 3.5 million. The gender breakdown is about 40% women, 60% men, mostly from the United States and EU countries. People take advantage of the cost of living differential. It really makes a difference. And it seems to be growing. It's grown. Of course, there was a dip during COVID. I'm one of the BC nomads, but before COVID nomads. But once COVID hit, people had to hunker down and stay in one place. It really wasn't a good idea to travel. But then once travel started picking up again, there were all of these companies that were used to having people work online, and many of them didn't require people to go back to the office. So that created a whole new crop of digital nomads. And I believe Dhruv said it's growing at a rate of about 15% and has been for the last 4 years. So it's definitely a growing thing.
Thank you, Matt, for those insights. My next question will go to Prashant. What are the upcoming initiatives being undertaken by government to promote Goa as a global hotspot for digital nomads and tech-savvy tourists?
Far as the government is concerned, we have been hearing right from the morning panel, we are looking at the 3 E's. The economy, employment, and environment. So the question is, what's going to be the new economy? What's going to be the new future? So we are looking at the workforce, we are looking at the workspace, and we are looking at how the whole transformation of economy is happening. So Matt spoke about the growth of digital nomads, and it's estimated that by 2035, we'll be having 1 billion digital nomads in this world. So that's going to be a huge disruptor in the economy, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to work towards that. So we are trying to develop a program known as Digital Nomad Program, wherein we are trying to facilitate, not build anything special, but as government, we are facilitators. We are trying to facilitate and see how we can make it easy for digital nomads to travel down from across the globe. Because at this point of time, India is not looked upon as a digital nomad destination, even though Goa is seeing some digital nomads staying and working out of Goa. And we are seeing some infrastructure coming out by way of co-working spaces and co-living spaces. The whole idea is, how do we strengthen this over a period of time? Can Goa play the role of being a conduit, being a space where digital nomads from across the globe can come in, start working out of Goa, and then spread from across to other parts of the country from Goa? Because Goa can, be supported in multiple ways, like controlling the cultural shock and other aspects. Goa is well tuned as a space for tourism, etc. So that's the first part. The second part is employment. Now, as the government, we are also very much keen to understand how to improve the employability of the local ecosystem. One way of looking at this digital nomad sector is to see how we can bring in the best of talents from across the globe. Because in the days to come, it will be a global talent which will be available to the best of industries. People will be looking at not just talent locally, but talent from across the globe, because people will be working out from any space. So once this talent from across the globe is coming to Goa, they will also be brushing shoulders with the local ecosystem, local talent, and the local talent will also get exposure and understand, what it takes to build great companies and global companies, and how to be the best of employees. So we understand that having digital nomads will also help in the economy. The third piece which we are looking at is the environment, because the world is very conscious. Today we have been talking about, sustainability. We have been talking about, having glass bottles and not having plastic bottles. Everybody is talking about sustainability. ESG is going to be, the prominent factor. And working remotely, digital nomad, IT industries was one of the cleanest industry at present. So I think it ticks all the boxes. And for Goa, it looks ideal because it's going to be a blend of tourism and the IT sector. So we are looking at this sector with wide eyes and with a lot of expectations. And we are playing our role to be a facilitator.
So my next question will, thank you Prashant first for this input, will go to Varun. So I grew up in the Kampal area, and one of to see was the building which was never had life come to life when you started board. So thank you for that, for taking that initiative. And the question I have is, why Goa is the hotspot for digital nomads? What's been your experience with 91 Springboard and now with Build 3?
So you're not going to hear the answer you want to hear for 91 Springboard. It didn't come from a place where we wanted to sort of promote digital tourism or digital nomadism in Goa. It came from a place that me and my co-founders would meet every month and have a strategic chat on what was going well or not going well in the business. And this one time we sat down, and we used to have our headquarters in Delhi. My co-founder Pranay was saying, look, 5 of my team members have typhoid. I'm like, oh, that's not nice. We'll fix the water supply in the building. Which building? He says across 3 buildings. Conversation keeps going on. Some people have chikungunya, some people have dengue. Average commute times in the city are 2 to 3 hours per day. Air pollution is nuts. Cost of living is crazy. All in all, quality of life in big cities is not so exciting in India anymore. So as an employer, what can we do to make employment nicer, more pleasant, more productive, more enjoyable for our team? That was the driving factor. That's what took us to Goa, because when we said Goa, after Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, these are the main cities. After this, if you say Goa, people's eyes are like, tell me more, I'm interested. We were able to pull people from across the country, not necessarily overseas, but our first year that we moved to Goa, we hired 100 people. 1/3 came from Goa, 2/3 came from outside of Goa. So it's pretty exciting to have some young talent in Goa, but also we were able to pull from everywhere. That was amazing. I can confirm to you that every one of our team members said they were either more productive or they were happier, and they were definitely more energized. So Goa has that quality, and it's been an amazing decision for us. That said, 3 years ago, I started a new business called Build 3, which is what I'm representing today. That has a co-living and co-working aspect also. And that was really around, we were serving the Goan startup ecosystem, which is still emerging, still young, and will take a while to reach the levels of, say, a Bangalore or a Bombay or a Delhi, but it's growing. One of the things to enable an ecosystem is bring partners from other cities where there is buoyancy. And if you're going to bring them, give them a place to stay. So we start to invite people, give them a place to stay, mingle with local Goan entrepreneurs. Knowledge exchange happens, partnerships happen, funding relationships happen. So some of that excitement has happened, and I'm glad to say Goa has been an amazing place to facilitate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Varun, for those insights. So I think the key factor, like Varun said, is basically quality of life, and that is what remains a big draw in Goa. My next question is to our local boy, Ryan. Why Ryan has taken the plunge to get into tourism tech? So why Goa can be a test market for tourism tech for India, and what are the favoring factors in Goa that you find towards tourism tech?
Thanks, Jack. Good afternoon, everyone. A little brief about OneBoard and what we do. We are a travel tech startup with the goal to help travelers find and book authentic and quality experiences in Goa. Why Goa? Besides it being my hometown, what was so exciting about Goa that I left my job in London 7-8 years ago, and I moved back to Goa to start up. Firstly, travel and tourism is something that is very close to home. It's very close to everyone I know growing up. Tourism in Goa is abundant. Quality is present all over. One of the main factors I came back home personally was because of my know-how of the market, and I thought it would be a great space to sort of set up, network, and build a base out of Goa and take that to the world. 7, 8 years down, it's been a journey, and our plunge to one board has been only 2.5 years in. But what is the main important factor, I would say, when we look at a market that we want to build in? The most important thing is the ability to be close to our customers. We want to be around a space which thrives in the industry we're looking to get in and disrupt a little. Is it the right time? Is it the right opportunity? And Goa is that for everything tourism. We have from the best restaurants in the world, numerous amounts of activities and tours, which is essentially what we do. Most people barely scratch the surface when they know what can be done in Goa. If you want to know more, go to our site. You'll see over 200 wonderful things to do in Goa. And besides the commercial stuff, we want to show Goa beyond beaches and bars. We have so much that can be done, so much that can be learned, even dating back through our museums, walking tours, which give us so much insight through history. So in that aspect, Goa is a great place to start up a travel tech startup, tourism tech startup, sorry. Also, what I feel is that talent is easily available in Goa. We have a lot of people, especially within the IT space, who are very much aware and attuned with the tourism space. So not too much time is needed to be spent getting them educated and up to date with stuff other than IT. They know how customers think, how customers react. And it is a brilliant place to sort of build, test, reiterate, get feedback from your customers and immediately put it in. I think that's a super important factor when you're looking at tech, especially because you want to be able to get real market insights before you build on that. Yeah, I think more or less, I think in a broader aspect, and when it comes to tourism, all things hospitality, Goa is the perfect place. It definitely was exciting, and I can't think of anything, or I can't think of having my base anywhere else but here. So yeah, thank you.
So from Ryan, we got that the feedback mechanism is quite fast in Goa, and there's a chance to pivot around and see what you can do. My next question goes to Martin. How does Goa compare to other digital nomad hotspots around the world? What can it learn from these places to enhance its attractiveness to the global nomadic community?
Thanks, Jack. What a great question. First, I'll just tell why I even got started as a nomad and why India, to kind of give perspective on that. When I first came to Goa in 2004, the cost of living was so less. I came here and I was met with nomads before they were digital. I don't know if you guys remember Goa in 2004. It was full of French, German, Spanish, Italians. They had long hair. They drove Royal Enfield motorbike. And they survived by selling some trinkets at the Saturday night market, Wednesday flea market. And I looked at them. They were maybe 25. I was 19. And I said, I want to be like that when I grow up. I want to live the free life. I never want to go home. And I got guest house for 100 rupees, scooter for 100 rupees, 3 meals for 150 rupees per day, and life was set. So the motivation to become a nomad was live like this permanently. Then later on, I got into tourism and I could support that. Then later on, I got into digital nomad with my first business. Now, the other nomads around that I guess Goa is trying to attract, digital nomads first, but their motivation is, I want to build my business, the ones I've met, and I want to, get the lowest cost per living possible. The times that I have gone to other destinations, I was in Chiang Mai for 2 months, then another 2 months. I was in Bali for 8 months. Those times was because my Indian visa was over and I have to go. But when I went there, I was shocked. There's so many foreigners there that are living digital nomad life. One of the main differences is everything is set up, cost of living is low, and there is no competition from the local economy. Means when you go to Chiang Mai and you get a place, there's no local type people trying to get the same Airbnb. When you go to Bali, you live in Ubud, there's no Indonesians trying to go in the same co-working space. Those places have a parallel economy. All foreigners have their own thing, locals have their own thing. Goa is a magical place, but that is not the case. Goa has a thriving expat community. Matlab, people from other parts of India that have come to Goa, that are, melting it into some pot. And that's the magic of Goa. I think the way we get foreigners interested in being digital nomads in Goa specifically is you have to sell them on the idea of Goa, the magic of India. They have to also love it. They can't just come for the cost of living should be less and the co-working spaces are as good as they are internationally. It can't just be, oh, this is another place where you can, save some money and build your business. You have to also sell them on India as a whole and Goa specifically.
Thank you for the inputs, Martin. I think it corroborates with something I read a few years back where there was an article which basically defined Goa as the India's happy place, that anyone who wants to come to Goa comes to Goa because they just get happy here. I think when people consider Goa to be lazy or criticize our Susegalo lifestyle, there is a great element of it. They think we are lazy, but it's not that. It's just a way to enjoy life and, just have a good time, but at the same time work and have that work-life balance. So I think Martin hit that on the nail. We have to make sure we retain this part of culture to work in a relaxed manner and be conscious about doing it. My next question goes to can you share your experiences of interactions with the expectations of digital nomads? What would you say are the expectations of digital nomads, Vishwa?
Yeah, if I talk about the expectation, the person should be open to move to different places. There is no restriction that you have to work in one particular location. Because what I have seen, I've come from Netherlands. I see a lot of people choose different countries, not Netherlands, they go to Portugal because weather is very good. Either they want to go to Spain, but Netherlands is always raining. Temperature is 8-9 degrees. People want sun. So they go and work from different locations as a nomad, and destinations are also very beautiful as compared to Netherlands. The person should be open to travel. Normally, all the startups are also going. Maybe people from the startup, they are free, they are young, so they want to, because if they're not living with a family, they can go and live anywhere and work with them. Other thing is the money. They save a lot of money when they go and work, because when we talk about Netherlands, the cost of living roughly comes around 2,000 euros a month. If they need to pay rent or if they need to pay for their food. When they go to different countries like Portugal, I think 600, 700, 800, they can manage their entire cost. And they can savings, they can put up in their business or in other things. So that's what I see, that a lot of culture is coming after Corona, because Corona has taught us how you can work in this digital arena, because now you have all the tools, you have very good internet, or if you talk about, you have all the online meeting platforms and other things. So that is going to help maybe people to become digital nomad, and across border, they can go anywhere and work in that. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you for your inputs. So the next question goes to Varun, Matthew, and Martin. Any one of you all can take it in any format you want. What role do local communities can play to attract digital nomads, since the dynamics across various regions are very different? So basically the differentiating factor is local communities. I'll start with Varun.
So I'll take the liberty of setting context. What can local communities do, but what can also say the government or other bodies do? Let me sort of address both. I think there's things that are better left to the government, like security, both like cross-border as well as within the city. So how do people feel safe? How do they get in and out of the country? How long they can stay, visas, etc. Government. High quality communication systems, easy to get mobile SIM cards, etc., etc. This is part TRI and part local players, but a lot of it is the government. And then there's a third thing, which is monetary systems, which currency and banking is also largely regulated. If that can be made easier, then nomads can come in and transact and do a lot of that stuff. These three things, if the government and large organized players through regulation, etc., solve, I think that would be big. The rest is all entrepreneurs and communities locally should be doing, co-living, co-working, meetups. Of it, there should be 10, 20, 50 things happening a month, different people trying different things. Some things will work for some people, some things for other people. And that potpourri is amazing. That creates a custom, I can find what works for me. It's not one size fits all. So I think all of those sorts of things, people like me and what you're doing and several of us are doing in different ways. It's important for us to do my flavor of it and you do your flavor of it, etc., because we're not all built the same and we need these options. So that's sort of my broad view of things.
Sure, yeah. So I would say that the number one thing that I look for anytime I go to a new city is whether the Wi-Fi is stable, because I'm not an analog nomad, unfortunately. I don't teach yoga or sell trinkets on the beach, although that has its appeal. But it's not just fast Wi-Fi, because there are a lot of places in the world that have incredibly fast Wi-Fi, but it has to be stable and consistent. Or if you run a co-living place or a hotel or something like that, there need to be contingencies to make sure that it's consistent. So in Alcomea, the co-living place that I'm staying, they have 2 different sources of Wi-Fi. They also have a backup generator in case the power goes out. And the reason that's so important is because my clients don't care that I'm traveling the world. They actually think it's kind of cool, but they're not going to think it's cool if I can't meet with them and their clients because the internet cuts out or the power's out. So that's absolutely vital, not negotiable for me. And different places have done it in different ways. I was in a co-living place in Mexico, in Oaxaca, where they had Starlink. So they had satellite internet, and then they had fiber optic coming in as well. And one great thing that Goa has going for it is that it's got strong, or India in general has so much data, so many cell towers, very inexpensive data. You can purchase large amounts of data. So in the rare instance that both of those contingencies fail with the Wi-Fi, I can go to the co-living place at the top of the roof and I can get 100 megabytes or higher. So that's not a problem here in Goa. I think one challenge that Goa has is that since a lot of us don't drive in foreign countries or are afraid to drive, I've been riding a scooter since I've been here, but I was terrified to drive on the left side of the street because I'd never done it before and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to learn. But a lot of people that might be a barrier to coming to Goa, because I know you have Goa Miles, but in Saligao, where I'm staying, I hear it's hit or miss. Sometimes you can get a ride, sometimes you can't. So those are the practical concerns. As far as what will really draw and build a thriving community, like you'd mentioned, co-living, and co-living is very different from hostels. Hostels are more 20-something backpackers who, might get drunk every other night. Co-living tends to be 30s or older, and people who have jobs and are serious and want to work. And when you can combine co-living and co-working in the same place, that can really build a thriving community. There's an example of Bansko, Bulgaria, where They actually built a nomad community there from scratch. It was intentionally created, and what some people did is they noticed that it was very inexpensive for Europe, very expensive to stay there. You could get, at the time, the prices have gone up now, but you could get a one-bedroom apartment for 150 USD. So they started a co-living, or co-working rather, not co-living, community there, and provided everything people needed, strong Wi-Fi, that sort of thing. And then it grew from there, and now that same company owns their own co-living as well, and they've actually built this community where people are connecting. So there are various ways that entrepreneurs can do it. I do think there's a lot in that entrepreneurship that will attract people to a place. The other thing is to create opportunities to build community and connect with local cultures. So one thing I love about Alchemea is that about 50% of our guests are from various parts of India. I say our guests, it's not mine, but guests at the co-living place. And I know that as we're going into the low season for tourism, there are going to be a lot more Indians there. And I love that because I'm getting exposed to cultures all over this country. And that's a big reason why I travel. And you'll find that nomads tend to be very high in openness as a trait. So, you know, anything you can do in the community, like language exchanges, cultural exchanges, things like that, that can really bring people together. And I think that's what builds something. And, you know, I noticed that all the people, even if you're a local, even if you've never left the city you're staying in, if you're in Medellin, Colombia, where I stayed for on and off for a year in my travels, I met a bunch of locals who just wanted to meet people from other countries because they were open and curious. And it was this wonderful mix of locals and people from all over the world. So I think that's what really builds a thriving community.
I'd like to just go into the question a little bit. The question is how to bring foreign nomads.
I'm saying if I'm a local community, what can I do which will make it attractive for both foreign nomads, or it could even be nomads from elsewhere from India. It doesn't make a difference as long as they, as a government, I'm looking basically or to see how I can get economic development done in this. Yeah.
So that's a great clarification, because for foreigners, we would exactly not direct much towards the local community. We would direct towards government and be like, guys, the visa thing is a bit difficult. And when we leave, if we don't have the proper visa, or even if we do, we get grilled when we leave. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? What are you doing here? You know, where other countries, you just waltz in, stay for as long as you like, come back, do a visa run. They don't even speak English, so they don't care. But of course, India has its own security profile, and the government really is, not the government, but the visa situation would be the main thing that deters a lot of foreign travelers. Some of the things you mentioned as well, how do you get your two-wheeler? Goa is not a city, Goa is a state. You need a two-wheeler to get around. Is there Wi-Fi ready to go? Are there downtimes? Are there power cuts? These are some things that nomads will ask themselves about, especially if they have an online presence job. Like I have to be on Zoom calls several hours a day. You could lose your job if your Zoom call cuts out. You're just not cut out for this. So what can local communities do? As Matt was saying, having backup upon backup for the Wi-Fi, you know, so a Zoom call never ever cuts, having generators, inverters, that kind of thing. But also clearly defining this is a place for nomads versus this is a place for people that are, you know, also holiday makers. That's what happens a lot if you look for Airbnbs in Goa. You definitely will be looking at planning outside of Indian festival seasons because 100% it'll be booked. So, you know, setting it up for nomads specifically will help a lot. But then also the reason why I asked for the clarification is if you were to survey a lot of digital nomads globally and ask them, would you like to spend 3 months in Goa? A lot of them might say like, what's the visa situation? Is it safe? And have a lot of, you know, questions surrounding that. But if you asked your average Indian working in a metro, they would say, hell yeah, I want to go to India for Goa for 3 months. So you have such a big amount of people that would love to come to Goa. And I think those are the people that are knocking at your door and want to come down. I think building for them first would be a better idea and a better way for Goa to expand economically, if that is the goal.
So I think basically it comes down to largely that we are looking at stable Wi-Fi. There's also this big concern about security which has to be addressed. And if you're a foreigner, the visa remains the major issue, is what I got from from that interaction. My next question is to Tejas. What has been your experience as running a tourism accelerator program?
Honestly, Jack, as you know, it was an experiment. We tried it. We wanted to know whether this actually works or not. Now, I don't want to get into all the assumptions and experiments we did for the last 3 years. But what I can tell right now, it's been 3 years. What we realized is like, say there are 2 assumptions we have. It takes minimum 10 to 15 years to create an ecosystem. We cannot bypass that. It takes time to build that. But we had glimpses in the last 3 years that, okay, this is going to work. Now, second thing is that when session event at your place, our assumption was, let's get all the stakeholders, let's get the relevant startups. Now, magically, business will happen. It doesn't work that way. Now, what we realized is like after 3 years, there is an acceptance from the ecosystem saying that we are ready to experiment on new ideas, new innovations. But when we actually call the founders, they are not there to actually take up that whole challenge. So we were looking at one model where there is a B2B SaaS. If you want to do a business in US, there's B2B SaaS. You need one co-founder to actually stay in US. Like that's a life-changing decision. You have to make a co-founder to be there. Then only business will happen over a period of 2 to 3 years. So if that is the case, since we have all the stakeholders around a 60 kilometers kind of a radius, everyone is here. If you are not taking that life-changing decision of bringing one co-founder and making them stay here, it's not going to work. So at least from our incubator going forward, we are going to make it mandatory that not an employee, a co-founder actually has to be here and drive it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So at least that's our assumption after 3 years, which we believe. So personally, I believe talent attracts talent. So if that is the case, we need good talents to work out of this place, which brings more people in. Then the network effect will start kicking in. So maybe down the line, another 2 to 3 years, if without say now one board is here, a couple of other startups are coming here, without knowing us, ecosystem players knowing, if they start helping each other, it will get to a critical point or a magic moment where things will work out in this ecosystem. And then we don't have to do anything. It's a flywheel. It will happen as it is. For that, we need to bring more and more talents. And whatever is said and done, like it takes 10 to 15 years, at least for tourism tech to say as a mature thing. But the glimpses and the support we are getting from the ecosystem, we are sure that we are going to achieve that. So that's my experience from first accelerator till date. To give some statistics other than some stories, so we have 75 startups we are supporting through our incubator related to tourism tech. And most of them are actually from out of Goa, not based out of Goa. But we are very clear with them. You have to come here if you want to do business in Goa. You cannot sit there and do it remotely. Or you be a digital nomad, do it from Goa. So that was the idea. And we kind of funded almost 1 to 2 crores through various schemes and funds we have to the startups. And I will give one classic example of what happened here, which is a validation for us. There's a startup which actually reduces the electricity bill in a hotel or in basically a commercial space. Then they came here, they realized that they cannot use that technology in a centralized AC. Their entire model works with having individual ACs and building it. So they came here, they validated the idea, as you said, like they did the pivoting to actually capture 6,000 plus hotels in Goa. While they were doing it, there was a call for application from Singapore Tourism Accelerator, and we recommended them, and they got selected, and they are currently piloting there. So they actually came here. This is the model we are looking at. You cannot build a Series A company with thousands of employees in this place. but you can do your piloting, validate your idea, and build a global product day one. So that was one of our assumptions got validated for real, and the rest of the things we are experimenting and we are trying to see. Maybe down the line, 2 to 3 years, we'll come up with say that hey, that was a wrong assumption and we did something else. But this experiment is going to happen more and more. And one thing we are very clear that we will never quit. We'll keep on doing this.
Thank you, Tejas, and thank you, gentlemen, for all your inputs. The floor is open to the audience for any questions if you have. Then I'll throw in a.
Yeah, so I think one is a comment and one is a question. I'll start with the comment with what Tejas said last, and I think that's absolutely brilliant if he's looking at getting, at least one of the co-founders to come and set up here in Goa, because through various discussions and he knows and he's smiling up there, I think one of the biggest challenges has been commitment, right? And I think getting them to actually commit, I think would change the entire realm of possibilities. So kudos on that. The question, right? So I've heard a lot of the panelists and we've spoken about communities and how it's engaging communities. We've spoken about nomads being there first and then them actually becoming digital nomads. And, we're sitting here at GITM and we're talking regenerative tourism, right? So we've seen this change and we've seen this change of things happening and now it's helping communities. So this question is to all the panelists. What do you see or anticipate the future trends at this very interesting intersection of tourism tech, digital nomadism, and regenerative tourism?
Yeah, if I talk about the tourism tech, today if I see India has around $100 billion of a market. If I say digital form, only 20 million or maybe 20 billion is, 20 million is only an online. Rest all is offline. We are just working with tour operators or maybe taxi guys. So that will bring another change. So 30-40% increase we can see going into the digital, going in next maybe by 2030, we say 30-40% market will increase in that. For digital nomad, if we talk about, I think connectivity people have talks, I think more and more investment is needed in the creating an infrastructure. Internet connectivity plays a major role over there. If your connectivity is not there, how you will communicate with your customers or how you will communicate with other community about it. So these are the 2-3 things what I see is going to increase going forward.
If you look at the technology space, changes are going to happen fast. See, AI is going to be a $15 trillion economy by 2030. Just 7-8 years. Something like 5G, which we have not even touched today, is going to be another $15 trillion economy by 2030. Maybe Web3, emerging technologies, another $11 trillion dollar, So, and all these businesses, which are going to become big businesses, are going to be driven by the extreme talents, sitting and working remotely. And those countries are going to benefit out of this, who are going to create the right ambience and space to attract this talent and work out of that space. So now the intersection, if you look at it, it cannot be divided into sectors. If it is AI is going to play a role in every sector. If it is 5G, it's going to play a role in every sector. So this whole game of sector-wise differentiation is going to be, destabilized or merged into some kind of a new sector, which is going to be the AI sector or the 5G sector and so on. So I think we are looking at something which is dramatic, which is drastic, and creation of that whole ecosystem is going to be the key role here. And for governments, I think what we are looking at is we have to be very clear how it is going to play a key role for the local economy, for the local employment and local ecosystem environment. And whatever it takes to support, for example, the question of digital nomad, nomad visa, which Goa as a state is, vying for, is something which the government is pursuing and will pursue. So creating infrastructure, the right space. We spoke about the internet, stable internet. So program known as the Project Digital Nomad, whereby we are trying to aggregate all the spaces which are available in Goa, the co-working spaces, the co-living spaces, and so on, so that whoever is wanting to come to Goa will know these are the spaces which are available. At the same time, we are also trying to see how we can make it simplify and make it easier for them to play a role of interoperability. Say, for example, somebody is coming to and staying in Morjim for 15 days and 30 days. Can they, after staying for 30 days in Morjim, go to Kankan for another 50 days and stay there? And can they go to maybe the hilly areas of Uttarakhand, where we are already having direct connection with the airlines and so on, and spend 2 months there or 1 month there, or go to Lakshadweep for another 1 month there? How can we facilitate this new kind of environment is something which the government needs to look, and government is trying to look. So this is the whole change we are trying to bring in. And I think we are not very clear as what's going to happen. We are also dynamic. We are also been agile as much as like a startup as far as the government system is concerned.
Thanks, Sean, for your question. One thing I said to myself is something I really believed is that post-COVID, when we started in the tourism space, this is going to be the decade of experiences. Some statistics which was rightly spoken about is online penetration for travel, accommodation, transportation is roughly about 60%. But when it comes to experiences, activities, it's still less than 5%. And with that, what happens is there's a lack of quality and accountability for the existing infrastructure that exists today. Because today, people expect and are aware of quality. People want quality when it comes to food, when it comes to anything. The game is up. We want to be in the top. So as that will happen over the next decade, we will have to make sure that quality and accountability will win. And there are a lot of supporting reports as well. One is the Indus Valley report, which was put out by Bloom, where they say that a lot of India 3 is now moving to India 2, and they've broken down India 2.1 into 2.0, which essentially divides people based on their income and demographics, to say that people today will slowly, or the medium salary will go up, and people, the younger generation, are looking to spend it. They're not looking to invest in long time. They're looking to have or experience a lot in their life compared to the previous generation. So yeah, that's something that I'm actually really looking forward to over the next couple of years.
Great question about the future. Future is such an interesting thing. If we could just see into the future, it'd be so good. One thing that I about the future, regenerative tourism of the future. The average person in my home country is 45 years old. The average German is 47. The average Italian is 47. The average Indian is 25. If you want to regenerate through tourism, if you want to do any exchanges, build it for Indians, not for the foreigners.
Oh, yeah, I'll just add to that, yeah, your figure, you said by 2035, you're expecting 1 billion digital nomads. And I think there are going to be more and more from different parts of the world, because it only makes sense that if you start paying people to work in different parts of the world, yes, there's some advantage if you hire software engineers in Bangalore versus California, but you're infusing those economies, you're raising people's earning power, and then over time, you'll start to see more of an equalization of wealth and income, and that will generate more digital nomads. And I will say, I mean, even though the majority are from the EU and North America, I've met nomads from every continent where people live. So, I see it growing. And, I think COVID's a really interesting case study because even though companies could hire people to work remotely, the idea really scared them. And big businesses don't like to do things that scare them until they're forced to do it, which they were with COVID. And then they realized, hey, this is possible. But I mean, it's such a global world. I mean, the majority of my clients are not in the US. I've got a number in Europe. My largest client, in terms of income, he provided 50% of my business, is a guy who runs a 500-person software development outsourcing firm in Chandigarh. So I'm actually going to meet him for the first time. We've been working together for 4 years, and I'm going to head up there. And it's amazing because U.S. and European companies outsource their software development projects to him, and then he outsources his copywriting and content marketing to this crazy American who's drifting all over the world. So that's the future.
I would like to add, this is our assumption again, which we are looking at by 2030. Sustainability is one piece we are betting on. Now, something which is a luxury is going to be a necessary thing down the line, 5 to 7 years. And the Gen Z audience we're talking about now becomes maybe my age kind of thing, where they can take decisions when it comes to finance, and they're going to pay for it when it comes to sustainability. And one more thing is data. If we can catch hold of data, and if we can make sense of that data, the ecosystem which is going to do that first is going to win this game. So I want Goa to do that. So that's the idea. Thank you.
One naughty question from my side. You want to ask first? So, what do you think it will take for Goa to build a transport app which everyone trusts and will be transparency in taxi pricing or bike pricing?
This is a quite open question. Can be done. I have been here for 18 years, so since 2004, as I said, right? And we've talked a lot about the local community. I have a lot of Goan friends here, right? Goan taxi drivers are their own community. They do not want democratization of transportation in Goa. I have been pulled out of a taxi doing a bund. Goan taxi drivers, it's a very old thing. What my experience is, you don't mess with it. Goans have a lot of. It's not going to look good. I'm not saying anything bad about Goan taxi drivers. Many of them are my friends, and I'm standing up for them and saying that is their business. And a lot of fancy people from Bangalore want to come down and automate everything and sell all the equity. No, my experience is that cannot be penetrated. If someone does, hats off to them. But until this last breed of taxi drivers dies out, I think it'll be in the hands of the locals.
Other than taxi driver, I see is car rental is also one of the things. Because I was trying to book a car for next 4 days. I want to visit number of places. They have a very strange policy, 9 to 9. If you take a car at 1 o'clock, you need to give by 9. If you can't give by 9, they put up 1 day extra pricing. They are different. Goa is different. I would always say across the globe, car rental always work on 24-hour often policy, but here it's different. And then there'll be dropping charges, picking charges. They add number of things on top of it. Taxis, anyhow, everybody is talking about. I don't want to talk about it. Let's make it on digital, so it should be easy. Like when we are in Delhi or anywhere, or across the globe, we book Uber, Ola. Let's bring some local system over here which motivates driver or incentivize driver or the local cab owners to come to that system, and they can make more money or they can have more motivation to go through that app. I know it's a difficult, but change will if you start, maybe next 4 or 5 years, they will start getting the advantage of that, and they will start feeling they were doing more business with those kind of an apps.
Okay, I'm going to speak out of experience because we have been working with Goa Miles for a while. And in all honesty, sometimes it is the customers. I'll share one experience. Goa Miles works fairly good if you give them enough of a notice. If you want to pre-book your taxi, they make sure it's there. At least I don't think that for a pre-booked taxi, if you give them 3 hours or so, they fulfill. However, we have booked taxis for our customers flying in from other states, but they choose not to inform about their flight delays. So what happens is the taxi guy also goes to the airport and he spends 1 hour, 2 hours, and then we have to bear the cancellation that happens. So it is also about the customers because they also think that because it's an app-based product that they'll be able to wait or they'll be able to immediately get that sort of an availability. But in an hypothetical world, hopefully sometime soon, I think like any marketplace availability, I think if we are able to get enough drivers on the other side, because it is working, it's just that it's not really available. And or if we say that, hey, these are the pin codes where it really works, and people know that, okay, I think it's that sort of safety that you know that within these areas, I will always get a taxi, or sort of a Go Miles assurance that you will get a taxi within 10 minutes in these pin codes, that'll be great. And I think that could be possible anytime soon.
Just press down.
Prashant, the question is to you. The last time when you spoke, the last comments you made, you spoke about the dynamic changes that are going to take place in technology. You spoke about specialization when you move into verticals from 5G to the other sorts. That's wonderful. There's changes happening. And something that you spoke about was also which churned into my mind, where you said there's going to be some sort of an integration that will take place. And we do that in tourism. We do that in tourism where we're talking about merging one destination with the other. So that's going to happen from what you have spoken. My question to you is that, don't you think it's time at this point in time that technology and tourism talk to one another rather than we work in two different silos?
Absolutely. I think the experiment which Tejas spoke about, travel tech, is one of the key areas which is going to bring this divide. For example, if you look at AR, VR, one of the biggest example of this is like even without going to that place you are seeing and watching, this whole workshop is happening on Meta and AR, VR, right? So I think it just cannot be isolated today. It's just a matter of time. See, we are talking about taxis. Just imagine, just a few years down the line, we have self-driving taxis. The whole issue of drivers driving taxis is not there. So I think, by force or by chance or by the need, technology is going to take over and nobody is able to stop that. And whoever is going to ride this wave is going to the winner. So as you asked, there is no other solution except driving in technology, whether it's tourism or any other sector. I completely agree with what you say.
Any other questions from the audience?
So I would like to thank everyone for showing up here and including my fellow panelists. And with this, I would like to call the session to a close. I would request the Director of Tourism, Mr. Sunil Anjipaka, to come and felicitate the panelists.
Please come this side. So one by one. Start with.
coming and going. Thank you. Thanks.